This is the map of Africa. Just along the winding Nile River, the greatest civilization in history thrived almost 3,000 years ago. With the passing centuries, this ancient and vibrant land of the insanely powerful pharaohs fell under the control of Greeks. This was followed by the Roman regime, and finally the Muslims seized Egypt. The glorious dynasties of ancient Egypt got buried under the subsequent layers of these entirely different cultures. But now, thanks to the efforts of modern archaeologists and historians, the treasures and secrets buried in the hidden tombs of Egypt are finally being unearthed. The scope of these discoveries and information obtained from the forbidden mausoleums is so vast that an entire field of study had to be dedicated to Egypt. This study of ancient Egypt is now called Egyptology. The 19th century was marked by some mind-boggling discoveries like the extravagant tomb of Tutankhamun in the Valley of Kings. It's no secret that the rulers of ancient Egypt were fond of building lavish tombs and elaborate monuments. They would have these inscribed with their names and achievements in hieroglyphics. Some even left cryptic messages that archaeologists haven't been able to decode even today. After painstaking excavations, research, and translation, modern scholars have used these tombs and hieroglyphs to help them trace Egypt's history and further divide it into three distinct periods. Egyptologists are beginning to better understand the obsession of ancient Egyptians with the death and the afterlife with every new tomb and secret underground chamber they unearth. The highly sophisticated process of mummification also speaks volumes about their desire to preserve their remains. Today we'll talk about some of the recently discovered tombs that previously were concealed underneath the heaps of sand. These shocking finds are still somewhat indecipherable for scientists even today. Quite recently, archaeologists in Egypt reported that they had uncovered a trove of ancient artifacts from the necropolis of Saqqara. This included mummies and bronze statues from 2,500 years ago. There were 250 sarcophagi with incredibly well-preserved mummies inside them. Mustafa Waziri, the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, said that from one of the wooden sarcophagi they recovered a complete and sealed papyrus. They immediately moved this document to a museum for further analysis. Waziri believes this papyrus is similar to the ones that discuss the Book of the Gates and the Book of the Dead found 100 years ago. 150 statues of Egyptian deities and instruments used for rituals dating back to the year 500 BC have also been recovered from this dig. Through all its ups and downs, Saqqara represents 3 millennia of ancient Egyptian history, culture, and politics. This site has been a prime target for archaeological investigation for centuries now. It has produced many impressive tombs. One of these incredibly preserved tombs dates back to the 5th dynasty. It was discovered in November 2018 by a team led by Dr. Mustafa Waziri. This tomb belonged to Wartai, a man who was laid to rest in the vast royal cemetery. His colorful and tastefully decorated tomb is apparently intact. It was buried 16 feet under the sand at Saqqara necropolis. Despite being 4,400 years old, the color of this tomb is still intact. The tomb owner used to serve King Nefer-Irkare, who ruled ancient Egypt during the Old Kingdom's 5th dynasty. Besides the name of the deceased, there are hieroglyphs engraved into the stone above the door of this tomb. These hieroglyphs reveal his titles, including Royal Purification Priest, Royal Supervisor, and Inspector of the Sacred Boat. Adrian Dodson, an Egyptologist at the University of Bristol, defines it as a rock-cut tomb chapel. According to him, so far they've uncovered the public part of the complex. This is where the friends, families, and priests would come to leave their offerings for the dead. Painted reliefs, sculptures, and inscriptions cover the walls of this grave's rectangular gallery. In these reliefs, you can see Wartai, his wife Weret Ptah, his mother Meret Min, and everyday scenes from his life, including hunting, sailing, creating pottery, furniture, and more. 18 niches in the tomb are filled with huge painted statues of the priest and his family. There are also 26 smaller statues of an unidentified person, probably a scribe. The Egyptian archaeologists working here have discovered 5 shafts in the tomb. One of these shafts was open and empty, but the other 4 are still sealed. Egyptologists are excited to find out what is hidden in these shafts. They believe one of these shafts could lead to a coffin or sarcophagus containing the owner of this tomb. The priest's tomb is located along a ridge that has only been partially excavated. There is a chance more incredible secrets and treasures might turn up here on further digging. In February 2021, a team of Egyptian Dominican archaeologists that was working at Alexandria's Taposiris Magna Temple in northern Egypt unearthed 16 mummies that are approximately 2,000 years old. These were buried in rock-cut tombs that were popular during the Greek and Roman eras. Though the mummies inside were poorly preserved, there was something peculiar about them. They had golden tongues placed inside their mouths. Experts believe that golden foil amulets resembling tongues were given to the dead so that they would be able to speak in the court of god Osiris in the afterlife. Ancient Egyptians worshipped Osiris, who they believed was the lord of the underworld and judge of the dead. The gilded decorations on the cartonnage partially encasing one of the mummies also featured pictures of the god. Similar decorations found on the head of a second mummy depicted a crown, 2 horns, and a cobra snake. Khalid Abou El Hamd, Director General of the Antiquities Authority in Alexandria, explained that this mission also found a funeral mask belonging to a woman, 8 golden flakes of golden wreath, and 8 marble masks. Some coins bearing the name and portrait of Queen Cleopatra VII, the last queen of the Greek-speaking Ptolemaic dynasty, were also previously found in this temple. Back in 2015, a team of Spanish and Italian Egyptologists unraveled a tomb complex opposite the modern city of Luxor on the west bank of the River Nile. This tomb features a chapel with a statue of the god Osiris. According to the team, this unusual tomb was built between 760 and 525 BC. Just like the Osirian complex located in Abydos, this one is also modeled on the mythical tomb of Osiris. It was intended to celebrate the mysteries of the ancient god. Below this statue, the team found the burial chamber and a room close by that was decorated with various reliefs depicting demons and other deities wielding knives. These were meant to stand guard over the body resting in the tomb, so the elite Egyptians wanted protection even after they were dead. In March 2022, an Egyptian archaeological mission working in the northwestern region of the Pyramid of King Merenra, located in Saqqara, unearthed 5 inscribed tombs from the Old Kingdom and the First Transition period. These tombs contained many important burials and archaeological finds. The first one among these tombs belongs to a person who Egyptologists believe was a high-ranking statesman. It contains a well leading to a burial chamber with scenes of funerary rituals carved into the walls. Inside the well are a massive limestone sarcophagus and carved pieces that potentially belong to the tomb owner. The second tomb most probably belongs to the wife of a person named Yart, as it is quite close to his tomb. The owner of the third tomb apparently held several positions, including supervisor of the Great House, the chanted priest, and the house purifier. The fourth tomb is a rectangular well present 6 meters deep and belongs to a woman. She bore titles like the Decorator of Kings and Queens and Priestess of the Goddess Hathor. The fifth cemetery has a well located at 7 meters depth and belongs to a male who also held many distinguishing titles. Saqqara seems like a gold mine full of archaeological treasures, some of which various teams have dug up, while others are still waiting to be unearthed. Another tomb archaeologists have recently discovered while excavating Saqqara belongs to an ancient Egyptian dignitary who lived about 4,300 years ago. According to experts, this man used to handle confidential documents for the pharaoh, and there's quite a bit of mystery surrounding his death. It looks as if someone had hastily tried their best to decorate his tomb, but ran out of time before they could carve reliefs of sacrificial animals on the walls. Researchers from the Polish Center of Mediterranean Archaeology at the University of Warsaw believe the owner of this tomb is a man named Metjeju. The hieroglyphics found in the tomb indicate that he used to handle sealed royal documents. He was also a priest and an inspector of the royal estate. Archaeologists from this institute date this discovery back to the reign of the first pharaohs of the 6th dynasty. This means it was built around 2300 BC. Researchers found the tomb at the step pyramid of King Djoser while they were digging in the dry moat that surrounds the pyramid complex. It's actually pretty close to the burial site of a high official or vizier, Merefnebef. Archaeologist and expedition director Camille says it's likely that Metjeju and Merefnebef lived at the same time. He believes they were alive at some point during the reigns of the first 3 rulers of the 6th dynasty, namely Pepi I, Usarkare, and Teti. Because of his royal job, Metjeju held a social status high enough to hire someone reputed and skilled for building and adorning his resting place. However, the artisans he hired did not get enough time to complete their carvings. They only made sketches in black ink on lime plaster. It's a sort of rough draft depicting cows, oryxes, and ibexes. Despite the incomplete artwork, archaeologists think that he was laid to rest in his tomb. They just haven't found him yet. However, they are planning to explore the interior. They hope to find his burial chamber and possibly his mummy too. Camille says that if Medjetju wasn't buried here, someone else would have taken over his tomb. He probably died before the tomb was finished and had to be buried in the hastily decorated tomb. The rock from Medjetju's tomb was extremely brittle, and experts from the National Museum in Warsaw immediately intervened in order to preserve it. Archaeologists aren't surprised that he was buried this close to King Djoser, who died around 2575 BC. It was a common trend among Egyptian officials to desire being buried as close as possible to the important and revered king from the glorious past. Saqqara was a prime burial location for high-ranking Egyptians around 3,000 years ago. Today, this 5-mile plot is situated about 20 miles south of Cairo. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of remains of temples, tombs, and walkways spanning the entire history of Egypt. Researchers have been studying this extraordinary necropolis since 1850. Since then, they've discovered incredible things, including the mega tombs containing coffins, mummies, and other artifacts they unearthed in 2020. The tomb belonging to the treasury director for the Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II has also been discovered here in Saqqara. However, the discoveries at Luxor and the Great Pyramids are overshadowing the brilliance of Saqqara nowadays. Egypt is dotted with ancient relics and remains with hidden secrets that keep intriguing modern archaeologists and historians. The Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, Mustafa Waziri, thinks that the discoveries made in Egypt in the last 3 years aren't even 10% of what they will unearth in the coming years. After all, researchers are still working day and night to find the ancient tombs of some incredibly important Egyptians, like Nefertiti, the great queen and wife of Akhenaten, and Ankhesenamun, the wife of legendary golden King Tutankhamun, Ramses VIII, the 7th pharaoh of the 20th dynasty, and Alexander the Great. Let's hear what you think in the comments section below.